Always got to know where the camera is. Always got to know.
Right?
Yep. And I'm a little more casual than I usually am
This
when
video and audio.
I record it just for posterity, and I sometimes will make it available to folks who are just like, I want to support the show, and I'm like, awesome. Here's uncut conversation.
Oh, cool.
But if there's ever a thing where like I really don't want that going out in public, like
Oh, I
I'm
don't care.
super cool editing stuff out, so all good. So yeah, that was when you were like, "Hey, can we push back a little bit?" I was like, "That's awesome! I gotta go to the grocery store," and I thought I'd be able to make it back in exactly enough time, but no.
It's all good.
Yeah, let me turn this up just a bit for myself. And yeah, on a scale of 1 to awesome, besides hurt horse, how's today treating you?
Great. Yeah, no, the horse is doing better. He got bit by another horse in his pasture. And so, yeah,
Yeah, that's the opposite of good.
good.
Awesome. Well,
I have
I
to turn my phone on to airplane because sometimes it goes off and then people come in and it's not a good thing.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yep. Let me see. Recording. Make sure that's there and that's up to date. And boop. There we go. So the way I usually like to approach these is when you send over the information, I kind of read up on your short bio and checked out your website and everything. So I'm not starting from scratch, but I do like to ask really dumb questions so that
well, good. I have
you've
children, so ask away. I'm used to like dumbass questions.
perfect. In my workshops, as I've consulting for like BP and State Farm, those kinds of things. So in my workshops, I always say there are really stupid questions, and the only way you get smarter is by asking them.
Well, I think
So
like go. I can't even wait.
yeah.
So listen.
So to start off, just introduce yourself. That way, it's perfect.
Okay. Ready?
Go for it.
Hi, I'm Christina Flack. I'm the creator and founder and CEO of Pretty Girl Makeup. I'm a celebrity makeup artist. I'm a mother of five. What else? I'm a sepsis awareness advocate. And I also talk about my husband passed away 2.5 years ago from sepsis. So now I've been also speaking about grieving in a positive way. So those are some things that I do besides ride my horse.
Got it. That's a really important thing because I feel like a lot of death and loss is swept under the rug or kind of put behind a screen of, oh, we just don't talk about this, or it's so clinical
Mm-hmm.
that nobody confronts it. Nobody actually faces it and engages with it directly. So, what about that process? Are you focused on helping people understand or approach? What is it?
Well, it's so funny. My son passed away on Christmas Day 14 years ago, and then my husband passed away. And so it's so funny because people will say to me, like, oh, that poor woman, all these things happened to her. And no one ever thinks that their loved one's going to pass away. Like, it's not just me that was singled out, it just happened a little sooner than most people, right? But I feel that, it's so odd. After my husband passed away and we were so connected, I could hear him talking to me and I could hear him saying, like, if I was on a hike and he'd be like, I cannot bear to see you crying like this. You go to sleep at night and you're sobbing and, you know, um, I and so when I thought of it from that perspective, I thought, wow, that would be horrible if it was the other way around and I couldn't comfort him. So I thought, the best thing that I can do to, honor my husband and my son and my mother and my business partner that passed away is to live life to the fullest and be happy. Doesn't mean I don't miss them, doesn't mean I don't think about them. But what I have tried to do, I started two educational foundations at the Northern Lights School in Oakland, the Baby Bow Foundation, and then the Ken Flack Educational Fund. Because I want them to be remembered. And for me, education and nutrition for children are incredibly important. I also helped start the Bo Friedman outdoor classroom at the Edna McGuire School in Mill Valley. And so I just felt like, what better way to honor them than to not forget them and not talk about them, but to do something that's going to help others. And so that makes me actually feel better. And, I have, 4 living children, thank goodness. And, if I'm not in my right way, if I'm not setting the example of living, a positive, productive life, what's going to happen to them? So it kind of trickles down from, if the mom's okay, the kids are going to be okay. And I felt that, I want my kids to be happy. Yes, we have had these things in our family, but we've also had a million beautiful miracles, fantastic things that have happened in our life, and great successes. And I feel that when you're positive, it brings in more positivity and abundance. And so, and I also feel that instead of being uh, devastated, sad about this, which I am, but I'm grateful for the time that I had with my husband and my son. I'm grateful I had that love and that laughter and joy. And so I think that if people can look at those things instead of what you don't have, what you do have, you're going to have a happier life.
So it's not a denial or an ignoring of how you're feeling. It's more of an appreciation for what you had, what you still have, and the presence of them still in your memory and mind and in your emotions and your life in general, and being able to live that out as an example instead of just trying to tell your kids, don't be sad, be
Yeah,
happy, right? Because I
exactly.
feel like a lot of the positivity mindset is more about denying the negative and ignoring negative instead of being positive that you can get through this experience.
Absolutely. These things are never going to go away. You just learn, like with grief. It's not something that you wake up and go, okay, I'm over it. You're never over it because it hits you at random times. You don't even know. Sometimes you can hear a song or, you know, the wind blows differently and you're like, oh, and you start crying. But, I just feel that it's so important to focus on the good. There is so much good in the world and happiness and joy. So
Yeah.
I think I do believe that happiness is a choice, and denying that these things happen is just ridiculous. Like they did happen, and but you have to. I read this really great book called "We Plan and God Laughs." My plan was I married the love of my life. I was the CEO of this company. I'm a celebrity makeup artist. My kids are great. Everything's fantastic, right? And then all of a sudden, everything wasn't. Everything was pretty awful and pretty dark. And so it was really interesting because even if you haven't lost a loved one, this book was very helpful with like going through the waves of life. There's always going to be a wave. You just kind of have to learn how to surf and ride the wave. There's going to be great days and not so great days. But if you can just say that like everything is a blessing, sometimes you don't know this week, this month, this year, or in this lifetime. But just know that everything's a blessing and look for that blessing. And if you look for that, it's just like great things are going to happen. I've had so many, I ask the universe to help me with something, and they do, and the universe does. It's just amazing. If you're clear on what you want in life, the universe will help you bring it to you.
Uh, how in the world are you saying that? Because everything is awful, Christina. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We've got politics is icky. Oh, that's both sides. Oh no, there's so much to be upset about. Like how dare you have the audacity to say that things can be good? What's your deal, man?
I know what's wrong with me, right? You know what? That's cute. You know what? And okay, so the thing with the pandemic, yeah, it sucks. It's the whole thing's crazy. You know, but I just try to think, I started doing some things that I hadn't had time for before. I, redid my website. I brought on a new business partner. I've had the opportunity to get investors that are going to come in and help me expand Pretty Girl. I organized the heck out of my house. And, I haven't, I've been very good about being disciplined about waking up at my normal time, going to bed at my normal time, eating the way I normally do. exercising. I haven't used this time as like, okay, I'm going to have, 19,000 Domino's pizzas delivered and watch Netflix all day. I'm living my life like I normally do. Yeah, I wear a mask and I still get on a plane to go to a business meeting or do what I have to do. And that's that. I mean, this insanity has to end at some point. And I'm just not, I'm into, I'm living in my little fairy dust world. I'm just like, yeah, I kind of don't pay attention to it. And I also feel that, watching TV, I'm on, I'm part of the media because I work with Fox and NBC, ABC, CBS. I work with all these peoples. And honestly, shame on them for constantly hounding in on the negativity of, oh, this many people die, this many people die. It's like, I feel like our brains are very fragile, but very strong. So if you tell your brain every day you're going to get sick and die, you're going to get sick and die, and you're going to get sick and die. So don't watch that news. I mean, watch a bit of it, but monitor it. And, a lot of people have survived, and it's just part of life. People die, people get sick, unfortunately that happens,
I feel a lot like it's good to be educated and aware, but it's
Right.
really not good to be attached and dragged.
Yes.
Because
Don't
if
be
you get
cheating.
hooked to the attachment of the emotional response to what's going on, that is a much different dynamic than being aware of what you need to know to make an educated choice about what you're going to do.
I completely agree with you. Now,
Yeah.
hopefully, if the rest of the world did, then we'd be out of this thing soon.
Yep.
I just don't know how long it can go on with these, these poor restaurants. I live in the Bay Area in San Francisco. It's freezing here. Who wants to sit up? I mean, yeah, you're going to get sick and with a cold if you're sitting outside in the fog having dinner. I mean,
Yeah.
I it's such a weird thing to have the government tell you you can't work. It's really a weird thing, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah, that's a
And
whole.
my agent, like I'm normally booked all the time, and my agents are like, I'm on hold, or oh, it gets rescheduled, or I've had like two TV shows that I was supposed to go start working on, one with Tyler Florence, one with Isaiah Washington for Fox Kitchen Talk, and they've been postponed. So you know what, you just have to focus on what you can do, like I'm working on my business. I'm working on expanding my line. I'm working on a shampoo line and expanding my makeup line and a skincare line, with CBD. So it's a choice. You can choose to make things. Choose to do something positive during this time. It's either that or sit and wallow and cry and gain 100 pounds. And I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. So what are some of those projects that you're devoting your time and attention to? Because you mentioned a couple of them. Um, a couple of things I want to hear your thoughts on are kind of working with celebrities and oh wow, they're actually people.
They
And
actually are.
kind of demystifying the sparkle of these are the Olympian gods on the hill over there, and I could never approach them, and oh, I'm so starstruck,
Yeah.
and seeing them in the morning for makeup. Okay, they're people. And then also the business that you're creating and your mission behind that. So definitely want to dig into those. So either
Yep.
one you want to focus on first, go for it.
Well, why don't we talk about celebrities because everyone loves to hear about that.
Yeah.
I've been really blessed to work with, besides getting to do what I'm an artist and I love to kind of remodel people and make them look like the best versions of themselves. I also love to make people feel good. And part of my job being a makeup artist is, when they're going to get in front of the camera, they need to feel good on the inside, not just look good on the outside. So I have to figure out in literally 3 seconds whether they want silence, they want to talk, or they want to listen. So I've really gotten very talented at figuring out like which of those three. So, I mean, sometimes some clients really want to talk or they want me to listen to them about whatever, or some I just know they're like, they don't even want me to look at them and talk. So I do. And then they get out of my chair and then they're happy. And then, the producer, the director is happy because they look and feel great. So that's fun. And meeting the fact that I have had Condoleezza Rice, you know, Bobby Flay, Isaiah Washington, all these amazing, Hillary Swank in my chair, President-elect Joe Biden in my chair. I've had some amazing people in my chair that I've gotten to have all to myself for an hour. And I get to pretend, I get to be you and pretend I'm Oprah, and I get to ask them all these questions, and they'll tell me things about their life and their family, and it's really special. It really is such a gift and a blessing in my life that I'm able to have these experiences with people. And I've worked with Tucker Carlson and Dana Perino, and it's like being at camp in a day because you get to know them so well. You spend an entire day with them, and you really, really know them, and it's really fun. It's a great job. You're always in a different place. And then days that I'm not on set, or working with a fashion line or a jewelry line or something, I'm home, like here in my office, and I work on my company. And so I've been expanding. My dream has always been for someone. I'm self-funded. Okay. So I have been paying for my company all these years. And, you can only compete with the Kylie Jenners of the world so much. And so, I have a new business partner, Jordan, and, we came up with this business plan, and we went and met with some amazing investors this past week, actually. And, it's going to happen, and I'm going to get to create and expand my line. It's like a dream come true for me. And I'm so excited about it. To be able to have the freedom and not the worry of like, oh gosh, how am I going to afford this? How am I going to pay for this, marketing and PR? It's literally a dream come true. But I was very clear with what I wanted to have happen. I told the universe, like, I prayed, I meditated, I manifested, and now it's happening. So I'm really, really grateful. Really grateful.
That's amazing. And there's a lot there already that you just put out there. I'm a performer. I'm an entertainer. I'm used to standing center stage in front of 12 cameras and doing what I do in front of an audience. That's great. I also love talking with other performers backstage about life and traveling
Right?
and that kind of thing. So it might sound weird for me as a public face and figure to say
Right.
that I love being behind the scenes, sometimes even more than being the focus, because you do get to talk to folks when their shields are down. I
It's
saw that all the
experience.
time.
I mean, I think that's what's kind of nice about doing these kind of interviews. It's like, I feel like you're here in my house and we're having a conversation. And I honestly prefer having a Zoom call interview than just doing it on the phone, because, when you see someone's face, it's just easier to speak, and it just makes
Hmm.
the whole process much more comfortable, and you're more willing to open up. And I totally agree with you. I mean, it's so much fun. It's stressful too, as being, back behind the scenes and on set. You have a certain time frame, and there's a lot of pressure, and you've got to like perform, and sometimes you're dealing with difficult personalities and client. I mean, there's a lot more that goes on than the glamness of my job is not that long. It's not that much.
Right.
but but it's fun, and I love working with a team. And we all have the same goal of making the project look fantastic. And so it's really fun to come with different people's talents. We all come with our gift. My gift is making someone beautiful, and then someone is beautiful with their lighting and their camera work, or their direction, or the stylist. I mean, there's so many people, as you know, that it takes to make a production. It's you would be shocked. I mean, like, I did this great show on Fox with Isaiah Washington, as I mentioned earlier, called Kitchen Talk, and it was so much fun because we shot it in LA. We had different guests, and we had a different house for each particular guest, and then they created a menu for that guest. And then, as you know, it's always so fun when you're having people over. You all end up having the best conversation in the kitchen, right?
It always happens in the kitchen. Hang out by the
Right?
food.
Right, the food and the wine, and everyone's chatting. And so this TV show it's a great concept for a talk show, because you're kind of distracted with the cooking and the preparing, and you just open up in such a different way. And conversation really does change, and you never know where it's going to go when you're cooking, you
Hmm.
know? So it was a
Yeah.
really fun. But what was super cool was we went, for example, into Beverly Hills to this amazing cheese shop and looked at all these, cheeses from all over the world. And that was super cool. And then we went to this wine shop to find these special wines, and we met with the sommelier, and, you learn great things. And then we went to, one of these fabulous markets in LA that have just the most amazing organic vegetables that are like literally you're picking off the stem right there. So that was neat. And we had cooks but also stylists there to make the food look great, and it was a really fun process. I had never done a series before, so that was a really cool experience. I don't do mostly any one thing, but I do a lot of fashion, a lot of e-commerce, and so it was really fun to start a series and do the whole thing. It was really, really interesting. And I adore Isaiah. He and I became really close, and it was fun. It was
That
really
is
fun.
really cool. And I looked at some of your portfolio, and yeah, you're working with just gorgeous people, beautiful human beings, and helping them look the best that they can possibly look is fantastic. And it's even more interesting to me about how normal it gets and how quickly it turns normal, because I talked to a lot of folks about, oh, fabulous showbiz life and traveling the world and the glamour of it. You kind of go, man, yeah, this is fantastic. Not everybody gets to get put up in five-star hotels, and yeah, this is glitzy and glamorous. But then it's also like it's a job.
Well,
You
yeah, and then
still,
it's like, oh my God, there's zits and the eyes are puffy and the skin's blotchy and they're dehydrated. And yeah, I've got an hour to, you know, figure that shit out.
yeah, and all
I
the
have,
right.
yeah,
It's kind of the glitz and glamour and the dream that you work so hard to make real, and then it happens. And for me, sometimes it feels like I would have thought I would feel different at this point, because this is what I've been working to do, and it's another day at the office.
yes.
How weird.
I know, but I have to say, there's moments when I have a second and I'm in that situation of like the TV show, or I was in a boardroom this week with all these investors, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. And I am like, I just want to like have this moment frozen in time. I just like, I remember looking at my partner on the Zoom and the investors there, and my product, and I'm just like, I can't, I'm so excited and proud, and I don't even know what to, like. I was bursting. I was bursting with pride and excitement and enthusiasm for, like, dreams do come true, and how awesome is that?
Yeah.
And I just wish that everyone can have that in their life. I mean, obviously, I've worked my butt off to get to where I am, and I've been blessed with great agents and PR, my publicist. I mean, I really have a great team, and I'm really grateful to that for that. But I've earned um, what I have, and I've worked really, really hard, and I've done jobs that aren't so glamorous and they're not so fun, and worked with people that are not so pleasant. So you do pay your dues, and it's the, what do they say, the 10,000 hours that you need.
Yep.
That's true. I think I've thrown in at least 30, but it's whatever. And you do appreciate, like, you and I are doing like this is like one of my best interviews. You're really great. I've had a few interviews where the host is telling me they're doing all the talking, and I'm just sitting there nodding their head, and I'm like, I'm like, oh yeah, my life's so glamorous. This is so bad. Like, it's like I don't even know what to do. And you've got to just keep smiling because it's
Yep.
being, filmed. But I do appreciate how prepared and how you're handling your interview. There's a talent to it, and it's not the easiest thing.
Yeah, that was kind of meta conversation. That was my focus here was, yeah, over the course of all these interviews, anybody listening to the podcast will eventually get to hear me, but I have a much bigger part being the facilitator than I do saying, oh, and then here's another story that the audience has already heard 12 times, but I'm going to use you as
Say it
a
one
third.
more time.
Right. Oh, no, I'm here to hear your thoughts. That's
No, no,
it.
no. It's all good. It's like a dance, you know. It's like, you know, because they do want to hear, and I want to hear, but you just want it to flow, and
Mhm.
you have a very nice talent. So I want to compliment you on that. It's not something that it's really natural or easy. It takes time. I mean, how many interviews have you done?
A lot.
A lot, yeah,
Yeah, I
thousand.
I had another show for about 60 episodes, and I have conversations professionally, which I love.
Right,
And yeah, I definitely appreciate the dance like quality of it. I learned to tango when I lived in Fort Lauderdale, learned down in Miami. That was fantastic, and swing dancing for years in college. And definitely I appreciate the give and take of momentum when you have
right,
a solid enough structure, but it's flexible and responsive without
right.
being rigid.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. You just don't know, like, these conversations, you don't know where they're going to go into your public life or your private life, or they, they intertwine. And, it's interesting to have the mixture of both. It's so funny. A friend asked me yesterday, I told him that I was doing an interview with you, and he said, what are you going to talk about? And I'm like, I don't know, being a CEO, being a makeup artist, being a mom, grieving a widow, grieving positive. I don't know. There's a whole slew of things. I'm sure we'll touch on all of them.
Yeah,
Or you just don't know. It's
exactly. It,
interesting.
and a big part of it is being a magician, being a mentalist. That's my background. That's my first love, and I'm going to die loving it. And it is a studied unnatural naturalness,
Right.
because you have to look so casual while you're doing some knuckle busting sleight of hand moves that are
Right.
so incredibly difficult to pull off, and you have to look like nothing's happening. So
Right.
you're it thank you for seeing that. I feel seen.
No, I'm just
Where
like, we started. I'm like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing. Well,
yeah,
thank you.
but it's
It makes it so much easier to do these interviews when you have someone that knows what they're doing. It's like, it's one of those things that you really appreciate the good ones, because there are some that aren't, they're new, and I understand that. And I will talk to everybody, because, I'm grateful when someone gives me that opportunity to tell my story. And, I've been really, being a makeup artist, um, I like obviously being behind the camera normally. And then after Ken passed away and I started doing these interviews, it became more and more comfortable. And I didn't think I really had anything worthwhile to tell the world, but evidently I have some things that people want to hear about. And I do love making a difference. I love, if I've had people tell me that they've heard my interviews, and they had no idea what sepsis was, which it's a infection of the blood, which attacks your vital organs. And it can be cured if it's, if people find out, if you get a blood test and the doctors diagnose it and they get you on a liquid IV antibiotic. But if you don't, it will attack your vital organs, like what happened to my husband, and they shut down and you die very quickly. So to give you a time frame on this, he had, bronchitis, pneumonia. There was like yellow orange spewage and green. I mean, it was terrible. And then, we called the doctor. They did not give him an antibiotic. They gave him cough medicine with codeine and an inhaler, and didn't see him. So if you have cough medicine with codeine, and you have an infection, it suppresses your breathing, that the infection is going to grow like a wildfire. So 12 hours later, because he wasn't seen by this doctor at Kaiser, um, he was on life support in 12 hours, which is, I couldn't even believe it. My husband was a 6'1", professional athlete, and nothing I thought could take him down, except maybe me if I'm mad. No, I'm kidding. But you know, I don't want anyone to lose their person. And then, my children have lost an amazing father. I lost my husband, and the world lost an extraordinary human. And, it had nothing to do with him being famous. It was just that he was so funny and kind and thoughtful and interesting. And he really had a nice way, like you do, of making someone feel comfortable and listening. He was fabulous. And, you know, I don't want anyone to feel what we feel. So I feel like it's important to raise awareness for the sepsis. And then, people started asking me about grief, and then, it makes me feel good that I get a note from someone saying, "Oh my God, I got my husband to the doctor, and he was septic, and if I hadn't heard your interview, like, he would have been dead." And so if I can save lives, by telling my story and Ken's story, that's fantastic. And if I can help someone in their grieving process, I'm so happy to do that, because I know how hard it is. I know the pain, and it feels like a knife in your chest, and you feel like you're sad and you're depressed and you're angry, and you just don't feel like it's ever going to subside. But, if you can, I feel that, like, making sure that you don't get too tired, don't get too thirsty, don't get too hungry. You need to get outside and exercise. Like, you really have to take impeccable care of yourself during this grieving process, especially at the beginning, because I know that if I got too tired and hungry, everything seemed worse than it was. I mean, it was bad, but it was magnified. So, I started being extra disciplined. I went to yoga, and I hiked, and I meditated, and I prayed, and I did, all these things. And I tried to be kind to myself, you know, and I just feel like it really helped. And, and this is the thing with grief, it's not going away. So you can pretend not to deal with it. You can pretend to put it behind you or front of you. You can put it wherever you want. It's still there. And if you don't deal with it, it's going to keep showing itself.
The
It's an
amount,
interesting thing about life.
yeah,
You ignore
the
something,
amount you try
you're
to
less.
push. Yeah,
Yeah.
just
And God gives us these lessons. And if we don't get them, they get a little stronger and a little more powerful. It's like a little nudge, it's a tap, and then it's a smack, and then it's like, bam, deal with this. And so, just me being how I am, I'm clearly type A, and I just knew that the only way I was going to be able to function at a high level for, my company and my children and my friends, and just me, I had to, like, sit down and really deal with it.
hmm.
And um there's days that are harder than others, but I just feel that I know that Ken's still here in the house. There's little signs of him doing things, and it's nice. So, and then I also know that, one day we'll be all together again. And so that's, I don't fear death as I did before. I think before I was like, ooh, yuck. How about, do you fear death?
I don't fear death. I don't fear being dead. I'm just really not big on the idea of dying. The
Yeah.
actual dying part is the only part that I'm just kind of going, yeah, not really looking
Heard.
forward to that part.
Well, it's interesting. I just read this book yesterday. I was flying home from Denver, and I was reading this book on, it was saying that we actually live in heaven or hell here on earth. Okay. You decide how you want your life to be. You want it to be heaven like or hell like. And if you have a life that's hell in this life, you're not going on to heaven. You're going to keep being in hell. So you've got to make your life, and this is so interesting. I literally just learned this yesterday, to make your life as happy and positive now so that you can go move on to heaven, and it's heavenly and not hell. Because
hmm.
we have to keep, if we don't learn our lessons, we keep repeating them,
Yep.
you
Yeah.
know?
I always like to think that this life is an audition for the next one.
Oh, I
So,
like that. That's,
yeah.
I agree with you on that. Yeah. No, and it's funny. I feel, and I don't even know why this is coming to mind, but, a lot about the beauty of feeling good and looking good is what you eat and drink. And so I've been, with the garden, with the Bo Friedman outdoor garden, it was so important to me that children at a young age started growing vegetables, because and picking the fruit and seeing a chicken lay an egg to get that, and that they could pick it and, cook with it and then eat it, because they're so much more into that if they see it like that, instead of like putting a salad in front of a child. they have just a totally different experience. And so, and I can tell like that with with the people that I work with. Like if they come to me and their skin's all jacked up, and I tell them about, there's this great thing called celery juice that you can make with a blender and add some ginger and turmeric, and it'll take the swelling and inflammation, and your skin will be clear. And I just feel you're going to have a better quality of life and not die an ugly death if you eat well. I'm a big proponent of in the morning waking up and having a big glass of water with some Bragg's apple cider vinegar and tea, and you know a Diet Coke is great every now and again, but it's as I tell my children, liquid Satan. um,
I love
Sugar's the
that.
devil. Sugar's
Yep.
the devil. Yeah. And believe me, it's all crack. If I could sit and eat a plate of cookies all day, believe me, I would do it. But I just know that there's ramifications of those plates of cookies.
That's a really good insight because, in my experience, it seems like a lot of people who want to talk about the energy of life and, oh, your aura is just wonderful. Your energy is great, are ignoring the physical level of life. And if you ignore that we live in a physical dimension with
Right.
physical bodies that require physical stuff to live, and if you get more and more disconnected from that because what's on the screen is more important than where you are and what you're doing, you start taking real poor care of yourself. You ignore that physical dimension, and no wonder your emotional and mental and energy levels are going to get out of whack. It's because the substrate that it all flows from is not being served well.
You're
So
100% right. And
so
I just
yeah.
like, you just feel better. Your energy is going to be clearer and brighter if you're eating well and you're sleeping and you're exercising and doing things that bring you joy. Like today, as we are delayed because my horse got bit by another horse and I went up to take care of him. And, I love being with my horse and riding him and taking care of him. I love going to hot power yoga and hiking and, gardening and cooking for my friends. I mean, there's so many things in life that bring me joy. And I think it makes me happier and more attractive and, more interesting because I do these things that really make me happy. And I think it's so interesting. One of my children, I think it was Rose, she said to me that my lectures on drugs and alcohol were lame, even though I thought they were personally award winning. But she said, Mom, your example of how you conduct yourself and how you treat people and your work ethic, and we've never seen you drunk or high. And you didn't really need to give those lectures. But as a mother, you don't realize that, you don't realize how important your example is and having passion in your life. So, because I, love what I do so much, I love being a makeup artist. I love having my makeup company and creating things. And I love doing these interviews. It My kids think that that's what you're supposed to do in life, and I've told them, whatever it is you love doing, figure out how to get paid a lot and figure out where you want to be. So, we have a property down in Cabo, which, I love to be down there in Cabo. So I found an agent down there and she books me jobs, so, and I love, I don't know. So I think if you can have those passions in life, my one daughter went to NYU, Rose, and she's a screenwriter now. She has a passion for writing. She's written for TV shows. She's writing a book, which I know I'm not supposed to know about. And she's writing, scripts. And so I love that she has this passion. My other daughter, Melania, just graduated from Central St. Martin's University in London. She's a fashion designer and she just started a fashion line called Rouja. She named after her great grandmother. And so, and my son Nikolai, is in college and he's trying to turn pro as a golfer. And my little one, Ben, is in 8th grade and he's, playing amazing golf as well and wants to turn pro. And it makes me so proud that they're happy because honestly, when they're not in a good way, I'm not in a good way, and I've been really excited and proud of them. They have all been philanthropic with our charity for, for Ken and for Bo and the garden. They've all helped out to raise money. And Ben, who is Bo's twin, has been for the last 4 years raising money for the Northern Lights School. It's a private school in Oakland, California. Predominantly minority children go there, and they're all on scholarship. And the school runs on grants and donations. And they do charity events. So Vita Blue, do you remember him? He's a baseball player back in the day. He's amazing. He does a celebrity golf tournament, and the 49ers are there, and the Raiders, and the A's, and the Giants, and the Sharks, and the Warriors. They're all participating, raising money for this school. Dana Carvey, Michael Johnson,
Cool.
who was Olympian, all these amazing friends of ours have come in and when my husband was alive, raised money for the school. But Ben has literally every year gone on this one hole, and it's called Beat the Kid. And they give him like $20 minimum or whatever, and he hits the golf ball and they use his ball. Well, the first year he raised a few thousand, and then it was like 9,000, 12,000. But last October, he raised $35,500 in one day for his twin and his dad's foundations. And so, he's like, Mom, it's not a big deal. I hit a golf ball. What did you do? And I'm like, okay, yeah, you did. However, 2 children are going to be able to go to private school for a year because of what you did. So that changes lives, that changes families, that changes communities. And so the fact that he was 13, my 13-year-old son is making a difference in the world is just like, everything to me, and then I love that that's just something that he's done from a young age that I hope and pray, and I think he will continue throughout his life. And I do think that's what makes the world a better place, when, everyone helps out a bit and helps others. My family is very, very fortunate, being able to go to school and graduate from college with no student loans and no debt, and travel and be healthy. And I think it's, you're not allowed to just have all these blessings. You need to give back and help others have blessings, and miracles in their life. So
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And very, very early in that segment, when you were talking about, I love to go down to Cabo and got a place there, so figured let's just get booked there. That resonates deeply with me, because that's a lot of my fun about being a performer, and people going, hey, when are you visiting? It's like, well, when I get booked there. So
that's always my answer to everything. I don't know when I'm coming to New York yet, as soon as my agent books me. But it's so interesting. I'll just say, like, oh, I want to go to Cabo. I just kind of like say it out loud, and next day I'm booked. Or it's funny, my agents always had this funny thing of, like, when things are a little slow, she'll be like, book a flight somewhere, because anytime I book a flight, I get booked for something.
Hey, I'll be around there, and like, while you're here, come on down.
Here,
yeah,
come do something, be of some use. Don't just sit on a beach. But that's what's fun about being a makeup artist. I can, I shot a commercial for a week with a swimsuit line called Boys and Arrows, and they flew me down to Cabo. I got to be at my property. I got to go, before work every day, I'd go like for a walk on the beach, and then I went to work all day, and then I went on another walk when I got home. I'm like, this is this is awesome. Like, how lucky am I? And, I get booked for destination weddings. Some people will pay me like a really insane amount of money that I get to be with them on their special day. A lot of makeup artists don't like doing weddings, but I do. I think it's fun. Like, I get to be with the bride and the bridesmaids and meet, be with the family on a really special day in their life. And it's fun. I enjoy that. And then it's like, you work for a few hours, it's 3 or 4 hours, and then you go to the beach or go on a hike or, go do something else. So.
Yeah, but what a great example that you are giving your kids about the value of imagination, because you have to have this idea before you could make it real. And that's been kind of one of my core areas is helping people just imagine something that's so far outside of possible that there's no way it could ever be real. But when you imagine it and allow yourself to entertain the idea that this thing could happen, well, then you start figuring out really cool ways of making it work. And if that's how you've been living in front of your kids for decades, that helps them now think in that way too and have lives that most people are trying to work a 9 to 5 job grind that they absolutely hate to try to then live this dream life instead of just making the dream life their 9 to 5.
Right. Well, okay, so I have a couple of thoughts on that. Number one, I always feel that like if you're doing something and you don't like it or it's not working out, okay, make another decision and do something else. There is no reason to suffer doing a job you despise. If you don't like it, go get another job. Okay, number one. And number two, someone sent me this really cool meditation on YouTube, and everyone can check it out by Bob Proctor. And Bob Proctor says, if you can imagine it in your mind, you can imagine it in your hand. And so you think about it like what you want and just focus on that. And you'd be surprised. Oh, I've got another quote here. Set your mind on a definite goal and observe how quickly the world stands aside to let you pass. Napoleon Hill. I have that right here on my desk. And I look at that all the time because sometimes I need, I know I sound like Miss Positive, but sometimes I need reminding too. Sometimes I need to be like, I need a little like, oh, I'm having a hard day. I don't think things are going to work out. And I need to see that. And so that helps me to stay, get positive, I always say, focus on what you want to have happen, not what you don't want not to have happen, because you're going to get one either way. So whatever you focus on is what you're going to get. So if you tell the universe like, oh, my life's horrible, I'm sick, the universe is going to listen to whatever you tell it. So if you tell it all this negativity, that's what you're going to get. But if you tell it like, you know what, I want to start a company, I want to travel, I want to make a lot of money, I want to do this, you'll be shocked it starts happening. It's just how it is. There's a
Yeah.
thing on Netflix, actually, a movie called The Secret.
Hmm.
And there was a book years ago about The Secret, but there's a film on Netflix right now about it. And it is, I would urge everybody to watch it a few times because you kind of need to hear it again and repeat it over again.
Yeah.
I think it's really a great thing. It's
Yeah.
exciting if you think that you actually have more control over yourself and what you want than you think.
Yeah, I learned that lesson pretty early, fortunately. In junior high and high school, I took gymnastics as one of my electives because it's like where are the pretty people hanging out? Oh, gymnastics. Let me go hang out there. And that's where I learned to tumble and all that kind of stuff. Trying, I never got it, but trying to learn a back handspring taught me that lesson because I would get so freaked out that I would be going backwards and upside down that I kept
At the same
looking.
time.
Yeah, I kept looking over my shoulder to try to make sure the ground was still there. But my body follows where I look, not in a metaphorical sense, but in a literal sense.
Right.
Your body will go where you look. So your
That's a
attention
good one.
guides your experience. And if you're going off a trampoline, you sprawling off the trampoline, and if you look down at the ground, your body goes, oh, okay, boom. But if you stay focused on the horizon, looking out and your head's up, you go forward instead of down. So it's a really bizarre experience to feel how your attention guides where you go. And
I think that
then
is a great way,
that's
the way you describe that about, doing the back handspring where your eyes follow is what happens. If you look forward, that's where life's going to go. If you're constantly looking backwards and living in the past, that's where you're going to live. I don't want to live that way. I want to live in the present. I want to live in the future. I want to live moving forward, because you're going to find more amazing miracles. My daughter Melania actually gave me this really cool book. called Into the Magic Shop, which you would love. And it's a neurosurgeon at Stanford wrote it. And he had come from a very poor family in the central California. And he started going into this magic shop to like buy little magic tricks because his life, his mom was depressed, the dad was an alcoholic, life was not great. And he met this older woman, and she said, well, if you really want to learn magic, I'll teach you. And what she taught him was manifestation. Like, what do you want in your life? And he said, well, I want to be a doctor, and I want to have a Porsche, and I want to have a pretty house and a lot of money and a nice wife. And she's like, okay, well, focus on that dream. And she taught him to have that happen. However, he lost the one thing that he obtained all of these wishes that he wanted, but he lost it all because he stopped being grateful. He became a horrible human, and everything was taken away. And so he like started thinking about, oh my gosh, like what happened in my life, like when things were good? How was it? When was I happiest in life? And it was when he was grateful for, I am grateful for turning on water. I mean, if I think back, my family's Russian. My family in Russia I don't know if they had running water, or they had to walk through Siberia. And, if I think that, like, my gosh, I have a heater and water and fresh food and a car. And I'm grateful for literally everything. I'm grateful for the air. I'm grateful for, this time with you. I'm grateful for, my child. I could rattle off like 19,000 things I'm grateful for. And I think that's such a much better way to live than hearing people just being so negative and hating everything. I have told my kid, I would rather you say F you than hate or I can't. My kids, I'm like, don't ever say I can't and don't ever say hate. Like, I will blow a fuse. I just feel like, there's certain things in life you really have to be impeccable with your words because words can be very damaging and hurtful. So I think that's super important, that just to be kind and thoughtful to others. It just, no one's going to ever think that you're too polite or too nice. No one's
Right.
going to ever think that.
Yep. And one of the things that I worked on very early and kind of help poke people into being aware of it is you tend to care about strangers and your friends and other people. And if you know that your best friend is going to be showing up in a week, then you go a little extra out of your way to make sure everything is straightened up and just right for when they get there. And that best friend can be the next week version of you. And there are things you can do today to make things just a little more accommodating for next week you. And if you think of yourself constantly as your best friend that just hasn't arrived yet, you tend to go a little easier on berating yourself or talking down to yourself or saying, I can't do this or that because I'm always just such a big screw up. Just go, all right, next week, let me try to make next week me's life just a smidge better. And your life tends to get a smidge better.
I think it's really, really important. And I just kind of learned this, and I've been reading a ton of books, obviously, because I'm referring to books all the time, but you cannot speak ill to yourself. You just can't. You have to be positive and kind to yourself. And, this is something that a friend of mine said to me one day. I was really in a dark place and really negative. And my girlfriend said to me, you know what? You would never, ever speak to anyone or treat anyone the way you're treating yourself. And I thought about that. I'm like, oh my God, you're right. I would never tell someone, oh, you're such a moron and you're so lazy and fat and annoying. We beat the crap out of ourselves, which is insane. It's idiotic. There's no point. The kinder we are to oneself, we'll be kinder to others. And and especially it was really resonated with me. I thought, wow, why am I being so mean to myself? Like, that makes no sense. I'm not a bad person. I'm not a mean person. And why am I, I just wasn't feeling, and it's such an attitude adjustment. If you can just be like, I am going to be kind and positive I'm going to treat myself the way I treat others because I am really kind to others and I should, and I am now. But that's kind of why I started riding my horse again and getting a horse and making sure I go to yoga and it's just what you said. My husband isn't here anymore, so I buy myself roses every week. And I make sure I light the pretty candle, and I will light the fireplace in my bedroom before bed and take a nice hot bath. I would normally be like, "Oh no, I'll save that for a special occasion." Use your pretty china, wear your favorite dress, eat a piece of cake, and every day is a gift, and we don't know how long we have. And I think um, if people can love that way, people are like, oh, I need to, wait 3 years and then get engaged and then wait a year. It's like to get married or whatever. I'm like, oh, hell no. If you find your person, how lucky are you? Get married, move on with your life,
Hmm.
be happy. I just don't see the point of, you don't know how much time there is. So, I mean, obviously, don't make crazy impulsive choices, but mindful impulsive
Yeah.
choices
Yeah.
and then happy. And, I think you'll be happy. You can always change your mind about, a job or your home or, something you're doing. You can always change it. So don't feel like anything is stuck in cement.
Yeah.
Change isn't a bad thing.
And there's another dimension to the be careful what you tell yourself that magicians have a unique insight into. And my first job was, well, out of college, was working at a magic shop at Universal Studios. So
Oh, that's my,
I sold magic tricks to tourists from all over the world. I've entertained kids, grandparents, the whole family, the whole 9 yards. And magicians know exactly what to do to get you to think what you need to think to believe the magic trick just happened.
well, that's just exactly the premise of the book, right?
Yep. And the really scary part of it was if it were slow and somebody bought a trick and there's nothing else going on, you go, "All right, let me teach you how this works." And then they'll see exactly the method of what I did to make the trick work. And
Mm-hmm.
then they will argue, "No, no, that's not how it worked. I know what I saw and you didn't do that."
Mm-hmm.
They will argue with the person who did the thing. And they believe what they told themselves more than they'll believe the authority on the subject who made them think that in the first place.
So if we know that, then we need to use that for the better of all involved, right? If
Exactly.
if you keep telling yourself these things, they better be positive, they better be kind and loving.
Exactly. Because when you see that that process is what happens, you start to recognize, wait a minute, I could be facilitating people undercutting themselves or making them believe they can't do something that they're perfectly well capable of doing. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to be ultra mindful about always focusing on what people can do instead of telling them what they can't.
Yeah, I just don't even believe in telling someone they can't do something. I think everything's possible. And I've told my children that, you can be and do whatever you want in life. Just do it. I mean, what's stopping you? Someone's going to be fabulous. Why not let you be the fabulous one, right?
Yeah, if nothing else, just go prove me wrong. Like just
Yeah.
prove me wrong that it can't happen. Go try to prove me wrong.
Yeah. And I just also feel, if you love what you do, you're not going to mind working the 10,000 hours to become successful. I cannot tell you how many years that I work 7 days a week, and long hours, and I'm on my feet and I'm exhausted, and I still raise my children and keep my house pretty and, do my charity work. I mean, but I have enjoyed everything I do. I enjoy every aspect of my life. I enjoy my work. I think if you have a positive attitude, you can enjoy straightening up your home. I'll turn on the music, I'll light a candle, I'll make every experience as pleasant as I can, because why not? You're going to have to do the experience. You might as well have it be a pleasant one, right?
Yep, exactly. So walk me through that, right? Of the being a CEO and building a company, which a lot of folks find to be a slog or difficult. It never happens. So the challenges of owning and running a company, Why would you start one in the first place?
Well, I have another friend, and she's a CEO. She started Hint Water, Kara Golden, and she and I have a similar belief is that so when I started my company, I was a mom and I wanted, I put lip gloss on and makeup artist and everything. I kept putting it on, and every time I had a sip of water, it would come off. And I thought I couldn't find. I tried a million lip glosses, and I couldn't find one that stayed on, or one that stayed on that wasn't drying of the lips. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to make up my own. And so what happened? I got in touch with the chemist, and I started formulating it. And you know, I thought it was literally going to take a week, and I'd be in stores, and everything would be so easy. Not. And it's funny, Tyler Florence, he's a celebrity chef and he owns a bunch of businesses. I do his styling for him, when he's on TV. And he was asking me about my company, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot even believe how long everything takes, how much money everything costs. The product. And he said, and this is a really brilliant thing. He said, if we knew how hard it was going to be, how much money it was going to cost, how much effort, how much sacrifice, no one would do anything. So it's actually better to be, it's actually better not to know how hard it's going to be. So going back again, if you're enjoying the process, it's not going to bother you how long it takes or how much money it costs or the sacrifices, because you're enjoying it. And, Kara Golden with Hint Water, she, had gained a bunch of weight. She wasn't feeling very healthy. The, doctor told her to drink more water, and she didn't like water, tasted yucky. So she started adding, she couldn't find a water that didn't have a bunch of preservatives and sugar in it. So she created her Hint Water. And now it's, a multi-million-dollar business. I mean, probably $1 billion business at this point. But a lot of I think products and companies start with a problem that you fix. So that's how I started my company.
That's great. And being aware of that process orientation rather than outcome dependent, because if you were only going to be happy when you were in stores next week, you would have been miserable for years.
Oh, are you kidding?
The
Miserable. No, but you know what? I really enjoyed the process of working with the chemist, formulating it, and then getting the colors to fit every skin tone because I'm self-funded. I did not have investors. I did not take out loans. It was all my money. And so I knew I only had a certain amount of money to create a certain amount of products. And I have friends that are all colors. They're dark, they're light, they're everything in between. And so I didn't want to come up with a lip gloss that all my friends couldn't use. So I tested it on all of them. And then I got it that it looked great on all of the colors, all look great on them. But it's so interesting with color. Everyone's skin tone is different, which means every product is going to look different on everyone. So I could have the same color lip gloss, put it on 5 different girls, and it looked different.
mm-hmm.
It'll look pretty, but it'll look different. And that's what's interesting with makeup and color. When I'm painting someone's face, it's really important. And you've looked at my work and you've seen that something similar is that everyone just looks like pretty. No one's like, you're not going, whoa, there's some blue and green and yellow and oh goodness, that's chartreuse. Yeah, no, it all kind of just looks pretty. And so it's really important being a makeup artist. And that's something that I've learned to do to make people look natural, to make their skin look even, to get rid of the circles. I mean, like today I hired myself. If you would have seen me an hour or two ago, I wasn't looking like this. I've got some good light here.
Yep.
But it's really important, when people are picking makeup products. You don't match your foundation by putting it on your hand. I see women doing that all the time. Your hand color and your face color are not the same. You need to do it on your face, and it needs to almost blend out. Like you almost shouldn't see it. That's the right color foundation. That's the greatest thing. If I can teach anyone anything about makeup today is foundation, test it on your face, and you don't see it. It shouldn't be too lighter. It shouldn't be darker. It should disappear. And that's the right color. And so I think that's one thing that I have, been successful at and learned how to do is to make people look like their best version of themselves, to get the right color foundation, the right eyeshadows and blushes for them to look beautiful and not, like a clown. So
And I think folks who don't have experience with that would have a difficult time appreciating how cool that is. My background, I have a degree in painting, studio art. I love
wow.
painting portraits, and I do that on an iPad now. I don't even work with paint anymore. It takes time to dry. I don't have time. Let's work on an iPad. So I do digital portraits, and color theory is the weirdest thing on the planet. So anybody listening to this, go Google color theory, color illusions, anything like that, and see just how wacky color is when it's next to other colors.
Oh, it's
It is
unbelievable.
so
And
strange.
it's so interesting. Like when I'm, painting a face, um, I make sure it's like, you put primer on the wall, make sure it's white, and then you put on the color. Because if you want the wall to look yellow, and if it's not really a white pure background, you're not going to get the real color that you want. So for example, if I'm putting on an eyeshadow and I want it to look gray or blue or whatever I want it to look, I have to make sure that there's no pink underneath or any yellow or vein color. Like, everyone's skin on their eyes and underneath are discolored. It's just no one, I mean, I will say this, there's very few and far between people with, very flawless skin, but I can make the illusion of someone that has perfect skin by making sure that there's concealer and different foundations or powder so I can get the outcome that I want. But it's definitely, that is a skill, and that has, it's taken a lot of time to learn how to do, and frustration. Like I'm like, how do I get the color to look like that? Ugh, like, so it's so, color is a fascinating thing, that's for sure.
Endlessly fascinating. Now, with my background as a painter and tinkering with technology, I've grown up making my own websites and my own promo posters, and then that turned into a side business where I created the websites and posters and DVD cases for my entertainer friends. So I was kind of doing a de facto branding company
Right.
and building all that out. And then having the
Started
conversations.
you started with a situation that was you resolved a situation.
Exactly. But my entertainer friends trying to speak designer to me was always fun. Frustrating is all get out, but I chose to interpret it as fun, where they'd be like, I want it to pop. And you have to translate what in the world
Translate
pop means
to
into
them.
real terms.
Yeah, right. So that
So,
pops to them and into reality. And
yeah. So, what were your conversations with the chemist like? Because I have no concept of what kind of shape a conversation with a chemist for cosmetics would even look like. Like I want more zhuzh. Like what do you say?
so I wrote down a list of like, I wanted it to be hydrating, moisturizing. I wanted it to be anti-aging. I wanted it to last long enough that I wouldn't get sued. And I said, I want it to be like, my husband used to call my lip gloss lacquer, lacquer, you know, it's, so I wanted something that would be shiny and last and have color, but not too much. And I wanted, all my products are, made in the United States. I'm woman owned. Um, and so the conversations were, it took a long time to just form it was a process. It took a long time to formulate the texture I wanted. At first it was way too thin, way too light, and then it got, thicker and thicker and thicker until the point where I'm like, okay, well, I want my lips to be able to open. I don't want to glue. So we got to get a little between moisturizing and glue. So that took time. And then I had to try it on friends and try it on myself. And then you would send back notes saying, okay, well, I like this, but I don't like this. Can you change this? So I wanted there to be natural oils. There's macadamia nut oil, there's vitamin E, there's shea butter oil, there's olive oil in it. So I wanted it to be something that was good for your lips as well as looking pretty. And
All right.
then we got to go, then we get to the color section. Okay, so I said, okay, I want a red one, I want a like a bronze one, a gold one. Okay, so there is a million shades of red, as you know, a million shades of bronze. So you have to find one, and this is what took the longest, to find a red that would look good on blonde people, dark people, redheaded people, you know, every color gamut. And that is tricky. Red's a weird one. The golds, you know, I wanted to find the perfect goldy one, and the bronze one, and then a clear one, and then a sheer pink, and then a darker pink. And, you know, it takes, and and like you, because you've studied color, our eyes are so trained. Um, I knew, you know, I could verbalize it
Hmm.
to the chemist, because, you know, the chemist is a chemist. They're not an artist. They don't know what the heck we're talking about. They think we're crazy. You know, she thinks red's red. But
Right. Yeah, color. Oh man, it is so weird, especially if you are painting from a photograph or from life. And that's why painting outside is so difficult because that stupid sun keeps moving. And
correct.
the color, because the cloud passed in front, the color is totally different. And it is really weird to people watching a painter work because the painter will lay down this color that looks totally wrong. And you're like, I thought you were painting this thing over here, but this paint is ugly as all get out. Like, that color's not even in that scene. And then the rest of the scene gets laid in, and suddenly, oh, yeah, that looks perfect. You nailed
Yeah.
it.
Well, it's a process, right?
It's all
It's a
about that context.
right. So it's very interesting, you know, the process of that. So then finally, you know, getting the right color was, you know, it took a lot, it took a time, and there was a lot of tweaking, which was fine. But I really did enjoy every process of it. Sometimes I got frustrated. I'm like, come on, let's go, chop, chop. That's what I want. That's what I say about everything. Oh my God, chop, chop, right? Um, but if I really, and then I, you know, found the right component. I wanted it to look a certain way, and then we had to find the logo, and then you had to get the sticker to go on it, and, you know, the safety thing. There's so much more than you can even. I mean, you don't get handed a CEO handbook. There's no handbook like, okay, you're CEO now. Yeah, it's kind of like you learn a lot. You make a lot of mistakes. Um, One thing I will say, I think, to becoming a successful CEO, which is always something that you're always aspiring. You don't just go, oh, I'm successful or I'm good. You have to know what you're good at and what you're not good at. And there's nothing, you know, it's not a bad thing to say, like, you know, I am not very strong in, I would make jokes before, like, I can't do that. I make lip gloss. That was always my like line for everything that was like bank related or, but, you know, I found a business partner that knows how to do a very strong business plan and knows how to keep things. So I think it's really important, being a CEO, to find a team, an infrastructure that is solid. And, you know, you can't do everything. You can't send out your orders. You can't create. You need to focus on, you know, getting sure everyone that they work well together, hiring more people that have skills that you don't have. I mean, we
Mm.
can't be superhuman and have, like, you know, oh yeah, I can do a business plan, I can make a lip gloss, I can, you know, it's impossible. And if you think that you know, you don't want to have more people on, you're not going to be successful if you don't learn how to work well with others, but get people to be their best self. Get your team inspired and have them, like, to do their best job. You want them always to be doing their best job. And it's really important to treat people well and get them motivated to, you know, be amazing at marketing or at social media. You
Yeah.
know, and no one is more. And one thing I've learned, there is not one person more important than any, like, I'm not more important than anyone in my company. Like, everyone is vital and pivotal. Like, everyone is super important. And I never want anyone to be, you know, I don't want to be the devil wears Prada and, you know, treat people like that. You know, I think, you know, everyone is important. My, you know, my assistant, my, you know, whoever is working with me is super important. And I think if you treat people that way, that is, you're going to be on your way to being a successful CEO.
That's a really interesting dance that you have to manage. And to me, the corollary is doing martial arts for a decade or so. And The first thing that I learned was called the little idea. It's just basically a 3-minute sequence of postures, and it's called the little idea. And the idea behind that is there's all sorts of stuff you could be doing, you could be worrying about, but here's everything you need to focus on, and it's not a lot. It's just this little thing. Focus on this little thing, and then you'll be able to be effective. So I often see that in business of, I want to make a lip gloss. That is such a small idea that gives rise to, oh, now I'm talking to a chemist. Oh, now I'm doing graphic design and logo and branding. And oh, now I'm looking at sticker adhesion glue and where that's
Right.
manufactured. This little idea, I'm going to make a lip gloss, gives rise to
A million.
everything that
There's
isn't
so
lip
much.
gloss.
Yeah.
And then being able to use that little idea, that seed, to fuel the decision making that goes into making that idea real. And that takes you farther than you ever thought you could do. But then counterbalancing that with, well, I shouldn't be doing everything that I'm not great at. So now it swings the other direction of trying to get rid of as many jobs as possible so that the people who are jazzed about stickers and glue
Yeah.
and marketing are in their area that gets them lit up. So it's that kind of yin yang of a little idea creates so much, and then the less you do, the more gets done. Such a weird thing.
That's true. That's really true. And I think that's something that, again, you don't know that being a CEO. You learn and then you speak with other people that are, CEOs of their company and running businesses. And, I'm so grateful that I'm able to ask someone like, hey, how do you handle that? Or like, what do you do? It's so great. If you can get rid of your ego and just be like, I went into this board meeting the other day with these investors that I was speaking with, and I had no problem saying, like, look, I'm going to be really transparent here. I'm a really great makeup artist. I'm a really good, I can invent products. I can invent names. I can do all that. The business plan part, I'm not so great at, and I need help. And you know what? I'm like, I need help with infrastructure for my company because now we're going to be growing at an exorbitant, like we're going to be booming. But I have no problem admitting that I am not great at everything, and I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to have people teach me these things. But you have to be willing to saying I need help. And people, it's amazing. People are so fabulous. If you can tell them you need help, people will help you. I mean, it's really remarkable. If you can get over yourself, like get out of your own way, you'll be shocked how many people will help you and open doors for you. If you can just say you need help and admit you're not perfect, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like
Yeah.
I've learned so much by leaving my ego at the door, admitting, what I'm not strong at. I'm not going to say I'm not good at, but what I'm not strong with. And that just saying like, I need help here. Can you help me with this or show me how to do this? And it's shocking how great,
Hmm.
your dreams will come true if if you can do that.
Yeah, a big part of my day-to-day business is doing mindset coaching with CEOs and business owners
Mhm.
and helping them reach that conclusion themselves,
Right.
because you might be surprised how many business owners use being essential as their source of feeling important.
Right.
And if they aren't the person solving those problems, then what use do I have? So they build the structure of their business so that they are the sole bottleneck of all problems. So
Hmm.
instead of having a whole team to solve problems and make everybody else's life more awesome, they set it up as, I'm the decision maker here, and any issue, any problem has to go through me. And now they're the bandwidth limiter of success because they need those problems to feel like they're important.
Right.
And that's completely antithetical to success. Success is setting people free to be amazing at being amazing.
I love that. Being amazing at being amazing. That's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we can end on that now.
Yeah, and yeah, it's coming up on the time I wanted to take from you, and I definitely appreciate you being here to
Thank
share your
you.
thoughts.
I really
So,
appreciate you having me today. This
yeah,
has been so much fun and enlightening, quite frankly. Yeah.
awesome. And for the folks who listen through the whole thing and are all about wanting to learn more and seeing kind of what it is that you do, where should people come looking for you?
So you can go to prettygirlmakeup.com to see my products. And if you would like to see my work, christinaflack.com if you want to hire me, see my portfolio. My agents are Zenobia, so you can go through my agent or give me an email. And Instagram, Christina Flack Makeup, and the Pretty Girl is PrettyGirlMkup. Instagram, and on Twitter we're Pretty Girl Makeup, same thing. What else? Yeah, that's it. But yeah, I'm really excited about 2021. I think it's going to be a great year. I'm excited for my personal life, my work life, my everything. So I think it's going to be great.
Outstanding. Well, beautiful. Yeah, we'll call that a stuck landing as there ever was.
Great.